What's up, YouTube? Welcome to ExceedTheHype.com. It's your boy Lucrecio coming at you with another video. Alright, this quick video is about the big three. So the inaugural season wrapped today with the team Trilogy led by Al Harrington facing off against the three-headed monsters, the team led by Rashard Lewis. I was really rooting for Rashard Lewis and the three-headed monsters, man. I just love that team. They had Kwame Brown, which Kwame Brown is somebody who gets a lot of unfair hatred or whatever. People call him the biggest bust in NBA history, which he is not. Granted, he didn't live up to that first pick billing, but I always thought he jumped into some bad situations with some players who aren't necessarily the best type of players to try to develop with, right? So they have Kwame Brown. They have Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, who is like 48 years old. He's an older guy. When I first heard he was in it, I was like, okay, what are they really trying to prove here? He gets on the court. Not only is he in excellent physical shape, he still has a crap load of game. He's draining. He started off a little slow as far as his three-point range or whatever, but as the season progressed, he was a beast on the court. A lot of times he looked like the best player on the court. I was really wanting them to win, and then they had a couple other pretty good guys on there. Facing off against Al Harrington, Rashard McCants. If you remember North Carolina, that really good North Carolina team with Ray Felton and Sean May and all those guys from a long time ago. I want to say like 2003, 2004, whatever. That was that team. He was from that team. He didn't pan out. He was probably the best player on that team, but he didn't pan out in the NBA. He got drafted by the Timberwolves, didn't work out. He just never had a good career or whatever. People kind of considered him kind of a bust-ish or whatever. Just didn't work out for him. However, he got on this big three. He was #1 pick. He had a lot to prove according to him or whatever, and they ended up winning. Then you had also on that Trilogy team, James the Flight White, the famous guy who would jump from the free throw line, put the ball between his legs and all that stuff. And then he got to the NBA dunk contest. The Knicks signed him for like half a season just to really compete in that dunk contest. And you know, he didn't really have a good showing after being a legend, a YouTube legend basically. So you have these guys, they went at it, the three-headed monsters, who I thought were like the best team in even though Trilogy was undefeated. Keep in mind, Trilogy played around a lot in the big three. There were times when they were ahead and they were just messing around before they put teams away. I thought three-headed monsters had the best chemistry in the big team, in the big three. They had the best player in Rashard Lewis, and then they had, you know, kind of the best X Factor type player, which was Abdul-Rauf or whatever. Then they had one of the best big men too, because Kwame Brown was balling out in this big three. He still can't shoot free throws or whatever, but he was bullying people. He was getting a lot of offensive rebounds. He was making good decisions. People always tried to make it seem like he wasn't a smart player. He was making good decisions, good passes the whole season. So these guys were definitely a good team, and they went at it. The only thing, I could take defeat, right? I could take the Trilogy going ahead and winning the game and this or whatever. That's fine. What I was upset about was the controversy at the end. Rashard McCants pulled that little cheap pull move that James Harden does a lot, or like you know, Kevin Durant does it too or whatever. I thought, if I'm not mistaken, they said in the big three they weren't going to be calling that type of stuff. Because it's not a foul. It's just if you're playing defense and you have your hand towards the ball, if it's in their space, they can pull through real quick and they get a cheap call, and that's how they won the game at the end. I hated that they called that. Another thing, Abdul-Rauf pulled his arm back before it was real. It didn't look like there was contact. Maybe I didn't see or whatever, but he pulled his arm back. It seemed like soon enough to avoid contact. They still called it. They got a free shot for three, and they got the ball, and that's game. Rashard McCants with a step back over, who was it? Over somebody. I don't even remember who he hit the game with over. I think it was probably Abdul-Rauf, because he was the smallest person on the court. I hate that the game, because it was a good game. The three-headed monsters started off hot or whatever. They were beating them. They had a pretty good lead or whatever, and they were almost at 25. Trilogy came powering back. They hit 25 first. They had the lead. Three-Headed Monsters was playing from behind a lot. They never could really get back the lead after that, and they ended up going down. I hate it. I hate that Rashad, Abdul-Rauf, Kwame, and the rest of those guys didn't get it done. But hey, ultimately, I think one thing, it was a packed house. There was a lot of celebrities. If you just looking at the front rows and stuff, you see celebrity, a lot of people. Now, a lot of that is the Mayweather fighters tonight, which I will be making a video about in a little while. But you know, it's pretty good to have them at a Big Three game. We saw a couple sellouts or whatever this season. We saw a couple. I remember Kentucky was kind of empty, but Kentucky isn't used to having a professional basketball league playing there. But I think they sold some tickets. Last week in Seattle, it looks like it was a packed house in Key Arena. You know, they'd be excited to get more Big Three basketball, or more basketball in general. It was just very exciting. This season was very exciting. You got to see some guys that you wondered what happened to. You wondered if they could still play. They answered your question. A lot of them could still play. You saw some guys, once again, my dude Andre, what's his name? The dude from Allen Iverson's team. I think he's about 6'4". He's quick. If he was a little bit younger, I'd say an NBA team would give him a look or whatever, just because he still has game. You could tell he's an NBA player. He's not even old or washed up yet. I think he's probably like 31. If he was a little bit younger, I think we'd see somebody from the Big Three possibly slide over to the NBA, but we'll see. Good inaugural season though. Very happy about this. Happy to have a basketball league in the summertime, and especially one that's kind of legit because it has all these NBA players, and they're going to continue it. Next year, they're talking about they're getting Kobe in it, talking about possibly having Rip Hamilton, having, you know, people who aren't that old who just can't play in the NBA anymore in that league. I think it would definitely be a good thing to have. This championship, what it means. Now, if the Big Three goes on for 10 years and becomes, you know, the alternative to the NBA, a big deal, lots of you know, good players or whatever that just aren't NBA players anymore, more popularity, more sellouts or whatever, this championship for Kenya Martin and Al Harrington and those guys will be so big because a lot of those guys had never won in the NBA, so to have that would help them out a lot. However, if the Big Three is like defunct after next year, ultimately, that trophy, nobody's going to remember the Big Three. So, depending, that championship, to me, the value depends on the success and the continuity of the Big Three going forward. But as of right now, good inaugural season, nice crowds. They drew some pretty good crowds. I'd like to see the Fox ratings. It is on Fox Sports, so naturally the ratings are going to be slow. But hey, we'll see. I do wish, you know, good things for the Big Three, though, because I like having basketball in the summer after the NBA ends, especially before football season starts, all right? Anyway, that's the video about the Big Three, the champions of Trilogy. And then this is a big sporting day because we got Conor McGregor and Mayweather in that big fight that's probably already predetermined or whatever. But we'll talk about that later, all right? See you next time.